Thanks, Henrik. That was the opening to Gorecki's Copernican, uh, his very, very fascinating Second Symphony. Uh, he seemed appropriate for Vardeman because that's how, in my mind, Vardeman hit the literary scene in these monocular. No, that's with the eyes. Monosyllabic sounds. Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. And if we were doing a booktube on Gorecki, I'd talk more and I'd play more, and I would tell you what we call the bees, what they represent in my mind. But we're not going that direction. We're talking about David Vardeman, as I promised in a brief message on Instagram yesterday. David Vardeman is the most important writer that we've published, in the sense that, at least to the press, he is, because it was the I'm going to have to repeat some things here, but I don't know, maybe not all of you have seen the videos in which I've said something that I am now going to repeat. It was after Vardeman and I decided that we wanted to publish him, and we agreed. I believe I was talking with him about how great it would be, and he agreed to bring back pocketbooks. So the first pocketbook that was published by Corona Samizdat was his Angel of Sodom, and is it a pocketbook? I don't know how to make it appear as small as it is. People are often telling me that they're surprised at how small they are, especially the authors. I thought I was publishing a big book, and look. Well, Vardeman had this Angel of Sodom. It's a novella, I guess, and then a bunch of 13 short stories, I believe. Things like Stromboli, two women on a tour going by the actively volcanic island of Stromboli. And then there's Pig and On the Origin of Peroxide Bitches. And anyway, this is someone who should be published. But I promised John Dixon, who is oddly obsessed with our authors, apparently, because he wants me to talk about the authors themselves. And as I mentioned with the Canadian authors, I don't know them all that well, but I know Vardeman very well. We met at the Iowa Writers Workshop, where he was one of the very, very few, I put this in quotes, students who actually had an expansive view of art, literature, and so on, and style was of interest to him, but what he was looking for in other writers was vision. And one reason probably was because he himself had it. I'll never forget. We met in 1993, and he had a guinea pig. That's true. It's a fact. John Dixon, David Vardeman had a guinea pig. Since then, it's been rabbits. But that's well. Let's talk about the cover of his book. That is a 3D felt rabbit made by the Ukrainian artist Katya Berlina. Why do I stumble? Because she's married to the guy who did his other covers, or the works that we used for his other covers, Edward Belsky. They have, that's Angel of Sodom. Belsky did that. Let's see if I can return to where I was when I digressed. This one, brilliantly put together by Zach Tanner. That's just a gorgeous book. And this one, we had the perfect one for Suddenly Last Summer, but it's a flip book, and This one would have been much better without that fucking barcode. I can't wait to do this one again. We might even choose a different one, but this looked so great. It was a more abstract, perhaps face, but anyway, it is to many of us one of Vardeman's best novellas. April is the Cruelest Month. It was my favorite until Suggestion Diabolique came out, and I read Easter. So, where was I at the writer's workshop? He had vision, and I still remember from 1993 the character that he was writing a novel. So was I, but we were writing our own novels, So I remember loving his character. His name was Salvo. This is a long time ago. I haven't read any of the Salvo novel since couldn't Salvo age it. I guess I haven't read it for 30 years or something like that. But I still see Salvo working in the bakery. He worked in a bakery, and he had an epic quality to him that Vardeman was able to create by sort of compressing the Vardemanian worldview into this character, and the selection of details to present and thoughts and whatever. This is something that is mysterious, and it's hard to talk to writers about this when people ask me for advice or what opinions, or even why I like a book. What I like about Deben Roy, for instance, has something to do with the selection process. I don't like a lot of books in the delicate style that David Roy works in, but he is so good at the selection of what he presents to the audience. He's the author. I could use a drink, but I'm not going to have one. Not that I can't have one, which doesn't say I'm not an alcoholic. I am, but I'm a practicing alcoholic, meaning that I practice not getting drunk, and I'm pretty good at it. But to get back to the selection process, this is something that's very, very hazy in my mind. I don't think about it, but I don't know how to advise writers about this because I don't understand my own selection process. I think it's a lot easier for me than it is for some because I'm a fast writer, and so it just it just pours out, and I rarely am led to question it. Only when there's some sort of strangely plot-related element to it do I. But let's get back to David Vardeman and John Dixon. John Dixon is, of course, our Isle of Man who wants me to talk about our authors. And, I guess he's probably right that a lot of people would like to know more about the authors. We don't make we don't really even have a standard way of presenting a new book. In fact, let me talk for a second about Gary Hamdahl. Gary, shit. Gary Hamdahl, here he is. Okay. We published this book last year in a large format, and it was a botched delivery, so we just did it again. And I'm realizing now I don't think I sent Gary his author copies. Gary, if you're out there, I got to send you these. Let me know. I usually send an author copy to Zach, who designs the books often or is part of that, and does the typography and so on. I don't know if I think I sent Zach this, but maybe not. Um, anyway, Gary, let me know. Um, so uh, here it went from where's the big one? We couldn't do everything that he wanted done on the big one. Here it is. This was the cover, and this was the back cover, and you know it was what he selected, and so we want to put on there what he wants, and we it was easy to do. But now we've got this, and so Zach worked a little magic, and Gary agreed that one image could go, and so anyway, but we didn't make a big deal about, you know, I put a couple of things on Instagram. Um, I don't really know how to give birth to a publication effectively, um, but it sort of works in the long run. I think, I don't know, but this is all about Vardeman and Dixon. I guess is where I left off. He's probably right. You know, we should talk more about our author profiles. Vardeman, you know, he's not a shy person, but he's entirely uninterested in bullshit. And and bullshit would probably be, if I can speak for you, David, um, bullshit would be like promotional nonsense and that kind of thing. And you know, you're not going to see Vardaman agonizing over the difficulty of getting an agent. You know, he'll just go write and then produce something, and finally now he's getting published. Um, is it only because he's my friend? Well, that didn't hurt, but you know, it also was because of how thrilled I was to read what he was writing when we started. Well, I actually read. I was going to say when we started reading each other's work again after a long period, but there was really never a terribly long period where I wasn't reading him. In fact, he's so I wouldn't call him reclusive, but so disinterested in bullshit that he wrote this play, Letters of Thanks from Hell. It's about Cotton Mather, more or less, and you know, most of his works that I have out here are extremely funny and perverse, funny in a perverse way. You know, like when the I think in the story, no, it wasn't Pig. No, the first story, the one I'm thinking of is a young guy in his career, but there's pig in there. There's a lot of pork in there, and there's a finger that goes flying into a man's pork plate, and the man mistakes the finger for a pig's tail and eats it really fast before the person who lost the finger can get it, because he doesn't want to give it up. He paid for the pig plate with the pork with the pork plate with the pigtail, and he's going to get it. That kind of humor is one of his specialties, but he's very good at displaying the cruelty of humans to humans and of life to humans. And in Angel of Sodom, it 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 manifests itself in interesting ways. The first time I read An Angel of Sodom, I wanted to cry, or I did. I don't know, but it was. I mean, it was heartbreaking. Second time I read it, it was a leg slapper. I slapped any leg that went by me. I'd slap it. You know, I had to read it at home eventually, as there are only so many bars where I can get away with leg slapping, and none of them for very long. Anyway, about Vardeman, I think I've already said enough about his writing, and I've shown you the books to Goretzky. And the thing is, Vardeman is a man of many contradictions. He was born in Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes, and he was born on a lake, not on the lake itself, but in a big old family mansion decrepit mansion. I didn't even know where it was. I don't know the lakes of Minnesota very well. I've done some fishing in northern Wisconsin, Pelican Lake. Oh man, the muskie. Uh, but so but he was never much of a fisherman. He said he did like I. He told me I actually I have his permission. He told me he did like ice fishing, but he never brought a pole. He did bring the auger, but they had a hut. You live on a big frozen half the year lake in Minnesota. You're gonna, there's gonna be an ice fishing culture available to you. Vardeman would go out with his auger, because that's part of the ritual. He enjoyed the ritual, but he would go out there, and this was the start of his literary career. He would go out there and he'd bring a book. He read Dostoevsky in a shack on a lake in northern Minnesota, and I believe it was far northern Minnesota. I think he was damn near a Canadian, and he is again because he lives in. I won't tell you where he lives, but it's a state near the border with Canada. It might even border Canada sometimes in the year, part time, part of the year. Anyway, so that's another fact about Vardeman. And another one, this one seems to go against the grain. He drives, and since Iowa, he's driven I think it's an MGB in warm weather, he drove a red British sports car, convertible, and he didn't. He's not a man who flashes his pizzazz, but he has latent pizzazz, and yet he doesn't wear a hat when he drives. He just gets in the car and drives. And with a very erect posture, when he drives. And I always thought it was funny as hell, and I think he can feel it when he drives, that people are looking at him, wondering why he's going so goddamn slow. But I actually drove with him once. We went to the capital, to Des Moines from Iowa City, for something. I don't. Maybe we just decided to go to some bookstores or something, and he offered to drive. It was a sunny day, and son of a bitch, you put him on what they call an interstate in the United States. You put him on one of those. The fucker was. I swear he was over 200 more than once. I mean, he was not a madman, but fast. I mean. And I don't think we ever talked about it. I think I was probably frightened. I remember being frightened, but sometimes those are false memories. It frightens me now because he's a lot older than he was. Back then he might have had some reflexes. Now his age, 60s, like a lot of us. And I think I can say that without embarrassing him. He dresses, I would call it impeccable Northwest. There's the shirts are always tucked in. I don't think he would iron his shirts, but he would always look neat, and yet at the same time he would fit into any diner, and he could pump gas with the best of them. He was a real Midwestern guy, and dressed in Midwestern medium. I think probably everything he wears he buys the medium. I don't think he ever does like checks this waist length or the waist size or the pant length. I think he just says, give me a medium. I'll take one of those and one of those. Corduroy. Not, I mean, like he was one of the last. I'm also a fan of corduroy, but I don't find it much. But, he was one of the last of the corduroy guys. Probably the only person at the Iowa Writers Workshop who wore corduroys. And you're probably thinking, I bet the guy used an old-fashioned typewriter. No, that was me. I was the last of the typewriter guys, except for one poet. he was kind of a dick, the poet. I don't know. Maybe I think a lot of people thought I was a dick too. So there you go. But Vardeman wasn't a dick, and but he had one, and we'll get to that in a second. Um, and he probably still has it. But the the funny thing was when Vardeman, you know, he typed. He used a modern computer because that was the most efficient way to do it. He's a very practical man. There's no pretense to it. He's not going to, imagine himself as a writer and get himself a working old typewriter and think I'm David and I'm writing. No, he thinks, oh, okay, shit, yeah, it's time to write. Okay, I'll do it, and who knows what comes out of it. The last thing that came out of it was Suggestion Diabolique, which is a, a book of uh, two absolute Vardemanian masterpieces, Hjornholm and Easter, and three classic Vardemans. Two, Corn and Salvation of the Fittest, are the most uh, Vardemanian standard. Zeitgeist is a shorter story. So anyway, about his cock, I was going to. I meant it came up somehow. And he said, be free, talk freely. My life's not an open book, but you can, it's your press. I'm one of your writers, and say what you want. Well, the thing is about Vardeman is there's this term in that I really love, and it caused a very nice man to stumble recently because it's used in a sense in Olaf Palme, my book about the late 20th century hijinks of the secret services in the United States, or from the United States, and as they applied in Europe, largely about fascism, and it's an honorarium to a very kind anarchist who was murdered by police in Milano, in Italy. And in there, Travis Meyer from real Canada, from Alberta, he read a passage from my book. It was very nice of him. He said some nice things, and he read a passage from the book a week or two ago. And he wanted to know ahead of time, how do I pronounce, there's a couple things, and one was just being careful. How do I pronounce the name of my dog, Suleiman? Well, it's Suleiman. And Sultan Suleiman, if you want to be formal. But the other word was, as he put it, jabakari. And I thought, what the fuck, man? Jabakari? Then I thought, oh, yeah, I tend to use whatever language is available. Not that I'm fluent in a lot of languages, but, I had a Dutch writer write a short passage. It's translated as well in the book, so you don't actually have to read Dutch. But there's a lot of Italian and Slovene, and this was, Jabakari was spelled J, in Slovene it's J, Ebacery. It's comes from the word jebać. Jebać is a fucker, and in Slovene that means like a man who, like a gigolo, a ladies' man. But they're not so subtle, Jebać, jeba, jebati, to fuck, jebać, fucker. Yeah, he's a real jebać. It's never used in a negative way, and even and it's somewhat restrained in the positive way that it's used, but it's jebáchery. And Vardeman is a latent jebać. I have, he did not drink much, and he still doesn't probably. But sometimes we would meet and talk in his apartment. We would meet for coffee or whatever. But a couple of times I got him out to a bar, and it was just unbelievable. He was like I would compare him to Richard Burton. He doesn't really look like Richard Burton, but he's got the same magnetism and inadvertent magnetism. He doesn't wield it, but it's women just won't leave him alone when he's in a bar. And he's gentlemanly, he's polite. If we're together in a bar and a woman comes up to him, he will not allow her to interfere with our night. But you'll be sitting there back thinking, Jesus, what is it? It's not that you don't see it. I mean, he's not a filled with warts, and he doesn't have the goiters or anything. He's just a above average looking guy who women just love, or that's the way it was. I mean, he's in his 60s now, so it's probably even more pronounced in some circles and squares. But the thing is, that's just, you want to know about my author, and that's him. Now I tell you that, but I'm not going to tell you about his family life. That's beyond the pale. Not his family life, but this part. Also, I really don't know any secrets. The only thing I'll tell you, because it is a fun topic, is let me just drop all bullshit here. The hottest chick in Iowa at that time was this woman named Amy Charles. She was just red hot, fiery young woman, and sexy, and she was also nasty. She said some of the worst things I've ever heard about my own writing, and it was all bullshit. But with Amy Charles, you'd want to get that fiery stuff. Maybe you can talk to her later alone. I was afraid to. She scared the shit out of me. But as far as I know, the only person who ever conquered, to say, and let me not stray from good taste here. I don't mean conquered like, yeah, he got to third base or fourth base with Amy Charles, but he took Amy Charles out. It was her idea. He took her out for a couple of dinners or something, and it was not. He didn't tell me about this for like 20 years, but he did tell me eventually that he did take her out a couple of times, and I have to say, one of the nicest things anybody's ever done for me, in a way, is he got her to see the value in what I was writing, which is now Corona Samizdat novel with kind of a stiff spine. Is something on my... I went back into the light and thought, oh, shit, somebody's tapping on my shoulder. Is it Amy Charles? I was writing The Appearance of Death to a Hindu Woman, which also is one of our it's... You can read it, but here's a good book here. I mean, in terms of the way it was glued and everything. All of our books are very well put together, and except this one, and it was the old printer, and it turned out that there was bad glue, and I probably could have refused the books, but I didn't really even think about doing it. And then they found out that the glue, the people they buy glue from fucked up. So anyway, this was what I was writing, and this is what Amy Charles was attacking, and he actually was responsible. I never knew, but I got the last time I turned in a bit of this. I think it was the section where the there's a cyclone imminent, and it develops a second eye. And at the same time, our man is going to Calcutta, and it's one of my favorite passages. And Amy Charles wrote that it was, I don't know, immaculate or something like that. I she wasn't even in my class at the time, so why she read it, I don't know. Probably because of David. He did tell me that, I think I had to ask him. Once he told me that he had gone out with Amy Charles a couple times, which I hadn't known. And utterly amazing, utterly amazing guy. So, yeah, ladies' man, potentially, I don't think his. I don't think he really cares about that either. I don't think if women never looked at him and never wanted him, I don't think he'd care. Another thing, last thing I'll tell you about him. I need to. I forgot about this when I was reading. I wasn't thinking of him biographically when I was reading Corn. I need to reread Corn because one of his what do you call that? Something with an F. One of his frivolities or something. One of those things that people have. It was he eats corn every day. He said it's sort of from his childhood. There's farm country up in northern Minnesota too. And I don't know. I mean, we were in Iowa, so maybe I don't know. At some point, he developed not a need or desire, I suppose, but a philosophical homage, an homage to the Midwest. He eats corn with not every meal, but once a day. He eats corn. Prefers corn on the cob, but in the lean months, he'll eat canned corn. So when the end of the world comes, if you've got any corn, make sure, contact us or David Vardeman. And, I'll take it and make sure he gets it because I can't give his address. But if you should happen to, be in that circumstance, it might be coming soon. It's been really warm this year, and it's really only April, early April, and I haven't worn socks for over a week. I got these shoes for the film we were working on. I had a ruptured Achilles heel, and well, there were various reasons where I needed something that I could just get on and off. And so that's what I wear until the movie's done, which is soon, by the way. One more scene, and we hope to have it done by the end of May. In the meantime, if you haven't read Vardeman, well, please go in order. Angel of Sodom, and so the short stories are fun. And they're short. That's what I like about short stories the most, is they're short, I just started reading Cormac McCarthy's Border Trilogy because I never gave it the time of day. I had already read Suttree, and I loved it. And one of his other short novels, I can never remember the name of it, but you know which one I mean, little dark one, and Blood Meridian, which upon rereading it, disimpressed me. I lost all my impressiveness when I read it again. I didn't think it was that great. I think Suttree's number one, but No Country for Old Men didn't. I didn't think that was a great novel. But I decided, what happened was people who he had a kind of following, and I had never heard of him before I went to Iowa, and then a few people I knew and I met really liked Cormac McCarthy, and so I listened to them and I read a couple of his books and I agreed. But when All the Pretty Horses came out, just a sappy title. Um, but apparently it comes from John Dixon knows. Ask John Dixon. Um, to get back to John Dixon and why we're even doing this. Um, yeah, uh, ask John Dixon. All the Pretty Horses had a source. I can't remember. It was from a movie, I think he said, um, in Argentina, from Argentina, um, or a song in that movie, or something like that. Anyway, I decided, Cormac McCarthy, and I get sick of hype, and so I have no interest in reading The Passenger or Stella Maris at this point. Maybe they'll be great books, but I haven't finished The Idiot yet, and I love everything I've read in The Idiot. That wasn't I'm talking about the Dostoevsky one, and so I don't really need to hurry. Well, maybe if you look at my birth certificate, you'll disagree, but the point is that I'm reading that now, and if I weren't, I would be rereading Vardeman's Easter, which is a no holds barred look at an irreligious, uncouth man, and there are just things in here that just excite the shit out of a reader like me. So there you have it. To summarize, Vardeman is a very interesting man. You'll never get to know him probably, but maybe write him a fan letter. Maybe he'll, send you something. I don't know. Maybe Amy Charles's bra. I don't know. But take care. I did go on a bit, but stories were told, and as far as I'm concerned, no harm done. Bye.